Good evening, everybody. And can I ask those of you who are hanging about out there to come and take some seats and join us for this ceremony. I'd like to, first of all, welcome you all here, friends of Rita Marie Johnson, our colleagues from the University for Peace students, because I think there is a significant number of our students who are here to join us. Welcome to this ceremony, which is intended to honor Rita Marie Johnson and to express our gratitude for her very generous donation of this magnificent property to the University for Peace. I think all of you recognize the significance of this donation, but let me just say, give you my own take on this donation. I think from our perspective, it is a confirmation that UPeace is seen as a stable, promising organization with a mission which is worthwhile, that needs to be expanded and needs to be projected around the world. I think that's the message that we get from this generous donation. There are a number of people who, for various reasons, have wanted to participate in this program, and I'd like to, one by one, call on them to come up here and say a few words. And the first is Marcia Aguiles, who is an alumna of UPeace, but who is also a close friend and colleague of Rita Marie Johnson. Would you like to come up here, please?
Well, good evening to everyone, and especially to Rita Marie for letting us be here with you at this ceremony. I was thinking how to let everyone share what is VPs and what can it be for this country. And when I was this afternoon thinking about it, I thought that it would be good to give an example. First, of something not so nice. I want to tell you about something that happened here in Costa Rica in 2010. On July of that year, a 17-year-old went to his school. He was in a private school, and he went to his school as he did every day. And he took his classes, as he normally did, and about at 1 o'clock, he went to see his principal, and he shot her to death. And when I saw that news, my first question was, I mean, how and what can be this person thinking? What was in his mind, and what was the motivation to do such a harm, not only to somebody else, but to himself? Because, of course, that was a decision that changed his life. And I wanted to give you that example, and that it's don't take me as a negative person, but because of those kind of things and some other things that are happening in our country, domestic violence, I can think about homicides, I can think about the way people drive. And some of us that live here know about that, about just driving your car and just feeling all these people angry just to get home and just wanting to do whatever to get home, but whatever means being violent. So when I think about all of that, then I think about BPs, and I say, if we have those kind of situations, if we that are considered a peaceful country, but we are not such a peaceful country. Something is going on in our society, and we need changes. And we don't need a death penalty. We don't need more people in jail. We need to do something for our generations, the present and the future ones. And that's what I think that BPs can do for this country. When I first met Rita Marie, she was telling me about this poem, about Rasur poem, and probably some of you know about it, and probably she's going to talk about it, so I don't want to tell the whole story, but I remember I saw her, and I saw her eyes when she was telling me this story of this professor that changed a community because he believed in children, And I'm thinking, it's possible. We can make it. We can make changes. We can learn help our children to be peaceful. We can help our children to learn how to deal with their emotions. We can learn how to express ourselves. And then I had this great opportunity to do the foundation course with Rita Marie, and it was fantastic. I can tell that it was so helpful for my life in so many ways. And I can tell you about BPs, about the definition that is in Rita Marie's webpage, but I don't want to be so theoretic. I want to tell you what has done for me and what I think that can do for this country. And as I was telling you, it's a great experience. And as I look for some words to define it, I think that BPs, it's about understanding us, about understanding our hearts, what lies on us, why do we feel some ways sometimes, and how can we deal with it? And then how can we deal with others? And how can we communicate better with others in a peaceful matters? How can we express our feelings? How can we express our needs without hurting others and without hurting us? And those two simple things are amazing, and I truly believe that can change so many people's lives. And that's why I believe in BPs, although I haven't met Rita Marie for so many years, but I believe in this dream that she has built. And I thank the University for Peace, because I know that somehow you are also allowing this seed to grow to not only to make a better country, but to make a better world. And I was somehow part of it not so many years ago. But I also want to thank Rita Marie on behalf of Costa Ricans, because I truly believe that we can change. Why not? I mean, we have to be hopeful, and we can change it. And BPS is more than a tool. It's a way of life. But we have to work hard on it. We have to work every day. Being peaceful is not something, it's not a definition that you can just say, I'm peaceful and that's it. No, you have to work on it every single day. So I thank Rita Marie for just planting this seed, and I really hope that we can make some changes for our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your words about BPs. I think all of us share the same sentiment. And hearing you speak, I must say, makes me proud that you're an alumna of UPs. Next speaker, I would like to invite Luis Diego Soto to come up here and say a few words.
It is an emotional moment for me, and I feel really honored to have the opportunity to give thanks to Rita Marie and to express my feeling of profound recognition. I might not say the words correctly in English because I'm not totally fluent in English, but you'll know what I mean. I met Rita Marie 17 years ago. And from the very first time I met her, we connected. Remember, it was in Los Joses. I know it was 17 years ago because my first son had just been born. He was only 1 year old. He's now 18. And at that time, she said, I want to do something that will impact Costa Rican society. And I'm looking for people that will be involved, that will be interested in helping me do this. I didn't know how deep she meant this. I said, yes, I want to commit and I will support you at that time. We didn't know what we were going to do then. We only knew that we wanted to do something, we wanted it to be significant, and we wanted it to be lasting. It was only 5 years later that Rasur Foundation started. She did several things in different areas, and eventually she decided she wanted to focus on a foundation that would focus, again, in education. But she wanted to educate the children. She wanted to work with children because she knew that the future was in our children. Inspired by the poem of Roberto Brenes Mesén, Rasur, she named the Rasur Foundation, and she invited me to be part of the board. So I was part of the board from the very beginning. We dreamt a lot. We thought of many different possibilities, where to go, how to do this. We worked with different people. I cannot mention them, but many people have supported us, have supported Rita Marie, because I have to say that she has been not only the heart of the Rasur Foundation, but the muscles of the Rasur Foundation and the brain of the Rasur Foundation. The place we are we're standing here, we tried to build it for several years, and it wasn't until she finally got the donors to make this possible that it was done. But our goal, one of our most important goals, was to include the social, emotional, and ethical learning in all schools in Costa Rica within the next 10, 15 years. That was too high a goal for us. We slowly learned that we didn't have the means, the resources, not the strength to do something so big. It was very difficult to change things. You know how difficult it is to change one individual. So to change a whole Ministry of Education, which was our intention, was quite impossible. We had financing problems. We depended on donations all the time. It's very difficult in this country to get donations from people. U.S. citizens are more used to that. Costa Ricans are not at all. So I can see that this happy ending for this project is probably the best solution for such a high intended vision that we had. And we really hope that Mr. Jack and all his administration and everybody that works at UPs can take this flag, as I said to you earlier, and continue making it move in the air and continue following this dream. I was looking at different papers I had through all this 12 years of being aboard, of being part of the board, and I wanted to read something very interesting, or just mention something that we had in a board meeting on April 13, 2002. We worked and we decided what was our mission. And it said, to advocate internationally for an education based on the wisdom of the heart with the aim of establishing a culture of peace. So at that point, we even wanted to do it international. Well, it happens that Rita Marie is moving out of the Rasur Foundation of Costa Rica in order to make it international. So she's continuing to do this in a higher level. So this goal continues to be real for you, Rita Marie. We then worked over some other things that day, but there was another idea that I wanted to mention because it was very interesting, at least for me. Yeah, at that point we were talking about training teachers, because we wanted not only to train the children, but to train teachers so they could train the children. The trainings would also would have to focus on honoring the profession of teacher and encourage them to teach from the wisdom of their hearts. We still believe that this can be done. Another part that you probably don't know is that at some time we thought, or we decided to call this the Peace Army of Costa Rica. And we came here in a bulletin, the Peace Army of Costa Rica. You see us in a tree, and this was the Peace Army of Costa Rica. We were trying to put that seed. I remember all of these people. Some of you are here. But the idea was to pass the skills of feeling peace and speaking peace from generation to generation. An army usually is used to power, to sustain the power of a group, of a government or whatever. Our army was intended to empower the individuals to make this transformation. I remember also the day we came to see this property. Rita Marie called me and said, I've seen a property that is for sale and I want to purchase it, but I want your opinion. So I said, I'll be there. I think it was the same day. I came in the afternoon and we saw the whole property. I still have the plano catastrado that I had before you bought the property. I found it within my papers too, with some writings on it. She wanted to know if it was a good investment, if it could be worth. After walking around, I said, yes, it's a wonderful piece of property. My advice, I'm in real estate, so I know a little bit of that. I guess I know. And I said, yes. And I think it was a great purchase, a great vision, a great accomplishment. I have also to recognize that Rita Marie has not only put her brain, her heart, but even her own money into this project. She bought this property with her former husband, Juan Enrique Toro, and herself when they were still married. And they placed their money into this place. And since then, they said, this eventually will go back to the people of Costa Rica. And this has happened now. So I want to finish my words by giving my profound thank you to you, Rita Marie. It's been an honor to work with you. It's been an honor to walk with you and assist you. I have done very little. You've done all the work. But there's been some of us that have understood what you wanted and helped you make it possible. And I think this is a very important day, very happy day, very meaningful day. And we do hope the former Rasur board and members that University for Peace uses. And not only that, but also I hope they can include the two basic tools that we developed in the Rasur Foundation, which I'm sure you've talked about that, which is feeling peace and then talking peace. Feeling peace by connecting with oneself and then expressing peace by communicating in a nonviolent way. So to be able to learn those techniques and I really hope personally that these techniques can be explored furtherly, deeper, and eventually, someday, be taught in all the schools of Costa Rica. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis Diego. I think your words helped a lot of us here to understand the consistency and the parallel nature of what B-Peace has been doing and what U-Peace is trying to do, which I think lies at the base of the decision of Rita Marie to donate this property. And I hope that U-Peace can live up to your expectations and your hopes here. I'd now like to turn to the U-Peace community, and as you can imagine, the U-Peace community, which consists of a few of us foreigners and a large number of Costa Ricans, are very keen on this property. Right away, we had our employees, our gardeners particularly, come over here to start taking care of this place. And I think the intention of our employees and our colleagues is to ensure that this property is maintained in absolutely top condition that we can manage. And to represent our employees, I'd like to invite the president of the Staff Association, Leonardo Garcia, to come up here and say a few words. Leonardo.
Thank you very much, Jack. A few weeks ago, when Jack approached the association, we asked him to have a few minutes during this ceremony to thank Rita Marie for this contribution to the institution. My name is Leonardo Garcia. I'm here representing the Association of Employees of UPIS. It is an association composed of more than 60 members between faculty and staff. And we are all very happy and excited about Kisur. We have plenty of activities, educational activities planned for the future, workshops, seminars, courses, etc. So we want to express our deepest and most sincere gratitude for this contribution. And we want to make sure that we all are going to love and take care of Kisur as our own home. So in exchange, please accept this modest present from all the members of the association and from the entire UPIS community. Once again, thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias. As a Costa Rican, as a staff member of UPIS, as an alumnus, and as the president of the association, muchísimas gracias, and may life bless you forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonardo. I'd now like to invite my colleague and friend, the Vice Rector, Amr Abdullah, to come up and speak on behalf of the faculty and of our community. Amr was the first one who knew of Rita Marie's desire to donate this property, and together we worked with Rita Marie to conclude the agreement. Amr.
Okay. Thank you, Jack, and good evening to everyone. Good evening to Rita Marie. I always say that to work in the field of peace, you work with your heart. And I think that Rita Marie has embodied this from the first day I met her. I came to UPeace about 8 years ago, and I remember shortly after I arrived, maybe a few months or less, she was introduced to me as a former staff member of UPeace, someone who is working on promoting peace in different areas. We had our first meeting 7, 8 years ago. She talked to me about her experience with UPeace, talked to me about the work that she has done and what she envisions to do with Rasur Foundation, and gave me some materials and literature. And always, and I will say relentlessly, pursued continuing cooperation with UPeace. She always made me feel that she believed in UPeace and believed in what we can do together. And she would go and come back and go and come back, always with plans, ideas for how she wants to link UPeace to her work of peace. Until I remember one time in the summer, she came with a couple of our students at that time who became so motivated about her work and excited. And they came and presented a plan that when I describe it now, I think you will appreciate. It's not surprising about Rita Marie. She came to me, explained to me the Be Peace workshop, explained to me the mind, heart, and body connection and how all this works together and how we cannot understand peace if we don't put all those pieces together. And she expressed clearly that she just wants to do this. It's not about money. It's not about gain for herself. She just wants space to do it and for people to benefit from that. Me being a vice rector, calculating and counting, I thought, whoa, great deal. And knowing how much she is motivated, we of course invited her to come and conduct her first Be Peace workshop about 3 or 4 years ago. It was so successful. Since then, we invited her every year to come back and to do the B-Peace workshop. It became a feature of what we do at U-Peace. Through the years, I felt that my connection with Rita Marie was much deeper than that. It wasn't simply about connecting at the academic level and wanted to have a course here or there. As I mentioned, she works with her heart. And when somebody works with their heart, they cannot go wrong, and you feel it and you know it. And that's why when she called me about 6 or 8 months ago, out of the blue, and she said, Amr, you know my properties that I have? I said, yes. She said, I want to donate it to U-Peace. Because I believe that U-Peace is one institution that will carry the message of peace that I have and that our foundation has. And it will last. It is not going to go away. It was really a moment of honor for all of us, Rita Marie, when you contacted us, entrusting us with this property. And we worked through it. And of course, we had to bring the lawyers in the picture, but we still made it work, even though we brought the lawyers. And that was because of Rita Marie and her insistence on working with her heart. The other day, she said something that I went and shared with my wife. We're still talking about few pieces left over here and there about the property and some piece of land and so on. And she said to me that her plan was to continue to see the beauty of this place. The beauty came before profit, came before money, came before building a wall. For her, beauty was more important. And I want to say, Rita Marie, it is that sense of beauty, that sense of peace, and working with heart is what drives us also at U-Peace and makes us so appreciative of what you do. And as my colleague said, we are committed to make this the best place, to make it continue to carry your vision and your values. And every time you come back to your home here, this is your home, you are always welcome to come back, you will come and see this place shining, advancing peace in every way you envisioned. Thank you, Rita Marie, from the bottom of our heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amr. It's now my privilege and pleasure to present Rita Marie with an honor from the University for Peace. It's a modest honor, but we hope it conveys our feeling for your role with our institution. I'm going to open it, which we'll need 2 hands for. This is an honorary certificate which says that the University for Peace hereby confers the honorary title of Ambassador of U-Peace on Rita Marie Johnson in recognition of her support for U-Peace and her commitment to the cause of peace through education. And it's dated today. So, please.
I think I'm already mic'd.
Okay.
Am I on? Everybody can hear? Oh, I'm so moved. I have to take a minute to. I'm not on?
We need it.
Oh, okay. The wireless isn't working then? Okay. Well, friends, I am deeply moved. I so appreciate you all coming to share this moment with me tonight. I think I just need to take a deep breath. It's just so moving. You know, as I look out at you, many of you represent different stages of my life over the last 20 years. And as I see that, I really feel so old. Oh, Not really. But I am moved by seeing faces of people that have supported me and supported my work for so many years. And so I'd like to begin my part here by acknowledging the people who supported me that then made it possible for me to give the gift of Kizur. So as I read your names off, I'd appreciate it if you'd stand. And first I'd like to acknowledge some longtime friends and supporters. Neil Carson, Neil, and Christine Essex, and Patty Olkowski, Patty, and Kati Winograd. Thank you all. Thank you so much for all that you've done for me and for this work. Thank you. And I'd like to recognize Alex Araya and Ernesto Hutt from Facio y Cañas. Please stand. You would never have received the gift of Kizur without these two. Could never have happened. They really helped me just move through the whole process, and not only have helped me with Kizur, but they're helping the Razur Foundation. They believe in this whole project, and their firm is committed to it pro bono. Yes. It's all been pro bono. So thank you so much, my friends. And then the board of the Razur Foundation, Luis Diego, my longtime friend and supporter, there you are, right there. Luis Diego. Marlon Mora, is Marlon here? Okay, I don't see Marlon tonight. And Marcia is also a board member now, Marcia Aguiluz. And what I want you to know about Marcia is that as we are making these new plans now, collaborating here with UPeace and getting the funds together for our Academy for Peace, that Marcia Aguiluz will be our new director when we get all those things in place. She will direct the Academy for Peace at Costa Rica. And I'm not really sure who's out there. Is Claudio Ortiz here this evening? Okay. I'd like to acknowledge Maria Reyes. Maria, where are you? Maria is a recent intern that worked for us, and she's another person who I would never have been able to make it through without Maria. And I'd like to acknowledge Barbara Jones. Barbara, would you please stand? Deep breath. Barbara's the one who gave the Razur Foundation a loan so that we could buy a property that's not the next neighbor over from Kizur, but one step over. It's about 30 steps, literally 30 steps from the front of Kizur to this other property that is owned by the Razur Foundation, and that only happened because Barbara Jones loaned us the money, and that is the property that's going to finance the national program into long-term sustainability. And without her, it never would have happened. And then I'd like to acknowledge the Razurs that are here in the audience. When I say Razurs, what I mean is our trained peace teachers. These are people that we've trained that are out there working in elementary schools and high schools, and I'm not sure how many of them are here tonight. I saw Carmen, who works here in Piedades at the bottom of our hill at our local school. Carmen, thank you. And do we have any other Razures? Any other Razurs here this evening? Okay. And then I'd also like to acknowledge my caretaker of 9 years of Kizur, Arnolfo. And there are some others that weren't able to be here this evening. People in the United States. My father, Carl Johnson, and my sister, Sherry Holland, have stood by me through this. And Terry Rodriguez is still a Razor Foundation board member, currently in the United States. Lee and Diane Brandenburg, who donated the money for this building. And Patricia Ryder, a long-term friend who financially supported my work for so many years. Diane Blumgren, the editor for Razor Foundation. Eleanor Dediger, a donor and long-term friend. Alexandra Kissling, a Costa Rican partner for many years. Vera Lucia Salas, a former director of the Academy, and Maribel Munoz, also a former director of the Academy. Juan Enrique Toro, and my maid of 18 years, Carmen Morera. And now I'd like to introduce Linda Hattendorf. Linda, where are you? Is Linda here? Right here. Okay, here's Linda. And Linda is an international prize-winning filmmaker. And she is making a new documentary called Picturing Peace. And so she traveled from the United States for this ceremony and to take a good look at Costa Rica's national model of peace. And so this evening after our ceremony, she would love to interview anyone who has something to say about peace in Costa Rica. I know she wants to interview Luis Diego and perhaps officials from the University for Peace. So if you would meet Linda in the living room, or Lynn is another person. I don't know, where is Lynn? There's Lynn. So these two ladies back in the back, if you would be willing to be interviewed and filmed, you might just end up in a documentary called Picturing Peace. All right. Thank you, Linda, for coming and being with us and filming this evening. All right, so friends, since you came out this evening on this windy night, and because I know many of you are associated directly with peace, I think I can assume that peace really matters to you. Is that right? Peace is a big deal for you. And I can also guess that you're really yearning for a more peaceful world. Is that right? You'd really like to see that? Well, I would too. And yet I'm wondering if you might question why, if I want a more peaceful world, that I would choose to take such an asset like Kizur and believe that the highest and best use of it would be to give it to the University for Peace. You know, you might just have some questions about that, like what kind of process did I go through to make that decision that that would be the highest and best way to use this property? Well, ever since I heard that there was a University for Peace, I was just thrilled with that idea, with sort of the placeholder that you have on the planet, the sort of promise that you hold for humanity. I've just been really in love with that idea. And then I went to work for the University for Peace for over 2 years, and I became even more enamored with this mission. I did resign from the University for Peace to develop my own work, to do what brought me to this point, but I really caught the mission and the vision of the University for Peace. So I've had this long love affair, you could say, with the University for Peace that's resulted in this marriage that we have now. Happy marriage so far. And I'm just so grateful that I was able to give Kizur to the University for Peace, and I'm delighted in the ways that you're using it now and the way that I hear that you're going to be using it. But obviously I had another motive, along with the University for Peace, that I wanted to create long-term sustainability for the Be Peace program, which is taught by the Academy for Peace of Costa Rica. because I wanted the Academy to be able to continue teaching this in Costa Rican schools. And the way it is framed now is that in my agreement with the University for Peace, that our Be Peace program gets to use this building for a week every month forever. Isn't that great? Week every month forever. And along with that, right under here, there are 3 wonderful classrooms, and these classrooms are exclusively for the Be Peace program. And so we will be conducting the Be Peace course here, and the University for Peace put in sliding glass doors, closed off those classrooms very nicely for us. So it's working out beautifully, and I appreciate that. And then this property over here that I mentioned that's called Casa Razur, that Barbara loaned us the money to buy many years ago, we are going to be selling that property, and we have some serious investors, some of which are here this evening, that are interested in buying Casa Razur to help us fund the national program. Jack, could you get me that Kleenex there? This dust and wind is kicking up my allergies, not to mention the tears. Got me going here, thank you. And so we're excited about selling Casa Razur because that is what's going to fund the salaries then for Marcia and an assistant. And so once we do that, we will have landed the National Peace Education Program for Costa Rica. We have these facilities at no cost forever, and we'll have the money from Casa Razur to invest and create the financial sustainability forever. I'm a person that goes into lasting mode. I want things that stick. And some of you said that about me, you know, that I'm really wanting to create long-term peace, lasting peace. That's what I want to see. How about you? Wouldn't you like to see that? So I've studied peace education all over the world, and particularly peace education in schools in other countries. And I believe, from what I know, that once this is set up with Marcia moving the Academy ahead once again with some funding under her, that we will have the strongest peace education program in public schools in the world, as far as it being long-term, sustainable peace education in a country. And I'm proud of that. Yeah. So, you might wonder, well, why was it so important to me, an American, to come and do work in Costa Rica to help strengthen Costa Rica's model of peace? Well, I was in Japan in 2007, and I was actually there talking about Costa Rica. They invited me to come on a tour to talk about Costa Rica in Japan. Me, a Missouri farm girl. So anyway, I was honored to be asked to do that. And as I was doing my last lecture, a man came up to me and he shoved a book in my hand. And he said, "You've got to read this." And so I thought, well, okay. So I got on the plane to go home, and I pulled out the book and started reading it. And I began to understand why he thought I needed to read this book. And it was because it was the story of a Japanese saint who had begun his work for peace by distributing books on values to public schools. That's how he started out. Then he evolved over time and did lots of things for peace. And after all of his work for peace, after many years, he came to an interesting conclusion. He said in his book that he thought the very best strategy for world peace would be for one country to model it all the way. One country to show the way that it can be done. And he felt like if one country could really make it obvious, tangible for us, not some airy-fairy idea, you know, these people that think peace is airy-fairy, right? Well, he said, no, let's turn it into a solid model. Let's really show that peace can be done by doing it very well in one country. So when I read that, and there I was talking about Costa Rica and Japan, I'm thinking, yes. You know, that's the idea I'd been on for years, but it was so good to read about it from someone else. And, you know, I want that to happen because I want to see that model replicated. And I know that my country is not going to be the first one to do it. And so I want to see Costa Rica fully claim that role and keep improving its wonderful model of peace. You know, as Marcia said, we know that Costa Rica's got problems, that violence has increased. And so we just want to stay true to that vision, don't we? That Costa Rica can be that model, that we can find the ways that Costa Rica can model peace to the world so it can inspire other countries to replicate it as well. When Costa Rica shows that peace is practical and possible and worth replicating, I'm sure other countries will follow. Don't you think? And not only that, it's good business. I could start quoting some statistics here, but peace is good for prosperity too, isn't it? You know, I originally moved to Costa Rica because I heard it didn't have an army. That's really what just lit up in my heart, and it's never gone out. I just was always inspired by the fact that Costa Rica didn't have an army. And after arriving here, I was introduced to the poem Razur. And this is a poem that many Costa Ricans really don't know about. And so that's why I talk about it every time I get the chance. Many of you here in this audience, you've probably heard me tell this story 100 times by now. And I'm going to tell it one more time. For those of you who don't know this story, because this story is not only for Costa Rica, this is a story for the world. And it takes place in these mountains right over here. You can almost, it's dark, but the mountains are right there. Of course, a little further in the Escazú area, is where this poem is set. And one day, in those beautiful mountains of Escazú, all of the children of the village Kizur disappeared. They disappeared into one of the mountains. Razur, a teacher that was inside the mountain, had silently called them, and they'd all come quickly down into the mountain. And so, as Razur has gathered the children there, all the parents outside are really terrified. They don't know where all the children have gone, and they're running up and down the mountain calling out for their children. But they're not able to connect with their children. They're not able to find the children, but suddenly they hear the children singing. They're singing Razur, 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 the name of their peace teacher. And so the parents hear them singing, and they try to move toward the singing and into the mountain like the children did. But their feet are held to the earth as if by magnetic chains. And as a matter of fact, in that moment, they experienced a sense of timelessness. They could see Razur over toward the mountain, but they weren't able to move there, and they went into a timeless moment where all of their painful memories were erased, and their innocence was restored. And then suddenly the parents woke up, and they realized they weren't going to be able to move inside the mountain, and so they just had to wait until the children came out at the end of the day. And finally the children did come out, and they were radiant with joy and singing and wanting to tell their parents what they learned from Razur, their peace teacher. And so as they shared, this is very elegant, isn't it? as they shared with their parents what they'd learned, the parents realized that their children were having an extraordinary experience. And so they allowed their children to go back inside the mountain the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And every day the children would come out of the mountain and share with their parents what they'd learned. And as this went on throughout the week, their village, the village of Kizur, was changing. It was becoming a little culture of peace. Now people were walking arm in arm. Now people were taking time to sit down underneath a tree and connect, really talk with each other. And now the creativity in the village was blooming. Now the women were doing beautiful embroidery, and the village painter was painting a landscape of the mountain that they now call Mount Razur. And the village musician was composing heavenly music. So all of this creativity was blooming. And then at the end of the week, Razur told the children that he had to leave and go on and teach other children in the world. And they said, no, no, don't go, don't go. And he said, don't worry. If you miss me, just bend your ear down to your heart. You'll know I'm there. And so Razur left, and the children came out of the mountain one last time and told their parents what had happened. And so now the whole village enters into a dialogue, talking about what this visit from Razur means. And one of the parents said, you know, before directing the lightning in the sky, we must first harness the storms in our own hearts. They said, yeah, that's it. If we could just embody these teachings of peace that Razur left us, then there was the hint that perhaps all of Costa Rica could become a culture of peace. And so the poem ends on that prophetic note. It was written in 1946. 2 years later, the army was abolished. And since that time, we know that Costa Rica has made many decisions for peace, including the Peace Education Law of 1997, which requires peace education in every classroom in Costa Rica, from elementary through university. And so, this is the poem that inspired my work here in Costa Rica. And I was inspired to look deep into that poem, to try to understand what was it under the surface of that poem that Roberto Brenes Massen was trying to tell us. And when I looked at the poem, I came to realize that he had subtly pointed to wisdom and compassion as the keys to peace. Wisdom and compassion. And that was the essence of what we needed in education, was to help people get in touch with their own wisdom and compassion. If we could teach them that, then everything else could work in our society, if each individual knew how to do that. So I went on a search to find out just how to do that for myself. I didn't know. I went on a search to find the best method for feeling peace and for speaking peace. And at the same time, I discovered in that search that in feeling peace, that I was able then to tap my wisdom more consistently. And that when I learned to speak nonviolently, that my compassion was evoked. And so I found my way to the how-to of wisdom and compassion. And so with this methodology that helped me shift so quickly, so efficiently, effectively, out of stress and tension and conflict into peace, I felt then finally I had something to offer. That this is what I wanted to see become sustainable in Costa Rica. Because if I can learn to live in peace, if I can tap my own wisdom and compassion, then that's going to radiate out from me, and just by my life I'll be a teacher. And each person that learns to do that is a teacher simply by living it. So with time, I learned all about the science of feeling peace. I learned how to use biofeedback software and to teach this to others, and how to use the language of compassion, which I learned from Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication model. And so I combined those two, feeling peace and speaking peace, wisdom and compassion, into one practice called Be Peace. And so that's what it is that we've been teaching here in Costa Rica and now in the United States. And we noticed that after people take a Be Peace course, that problems that they might have spent 10 years trying to resolve, conflicts, difficult conflicts that they may have been trying to resolve, now they can resolve sometimes in 10 minutes instead of 10 years. So this is what we're aiming for with the practice of Be Peace, to be able to grow from conflict, but to grow with greater ease and greater joy and greater efficiency. So we began teaching this practice in public schools in Costa Rica in 2004. And we trained every teacher in Santana, all the 13 elementary schools and the high school, and some other schools outside of Santana area as well. And now we're teaching it in the U.S., and you know, I've just been in the U.S. a year and a half, and we've already taught over 500 people in the United States. Now, we know that Be Peace is not a cure-all. I want you to know I am not a fanatic. I am not a fanatic. I recognize that Be Peace is not the only way to peace, and that there are many ways to peace. But what we know is that the particular practice that we've developed and teach is effective and efficient for people, and they have their lives transformed, as Marcia explained. So in developing Be Peace, I realized that it wasn't just inner peace, though, not just feeling peace and speaking peace that was going to make this thing fly. That really we needed to have it supported on all levels of the society. That we needed government infrastructure to support this whole process of being peaceful. And so I learned about the movement for departments and ministries for peace. Just got a thank you, Luis Diego, gentleman that you are. It's this wind and my emotions. So as a result of looking at the big picture, we decided that if there was any place in the world that ought to have a ministry for peace, it's Costa Rica. And so through the Erasure Foundation, we initiated a Ministry for Peace bill. And Alexandra Kissling lobbied for this. She helped a lot with that. And so in 2009, after 3 years of working at it, our Ministry for Peace bill in Costa Rica passed with no opposition. Yes. And we also initiated an alliance of nonprofit organizations for peace. We did this in cooperation with the Ministry for Justice, and now there is an alliance that is facilitated by the Ministry of Justice and Peace, and it is called Red de Paz. And so we have been working to create this holistic model, you know, beginning with peace from the inside out, and then peace from the bottom up. The Academy for Peace teaching the practice of Be Peace in public schools, and then peace from the top down, the Ministry for Peace, and then peace, what we call all around, meaning the nonprofit organizations in an alliance working hand in hand with the government. That's what we named the all around. So it's inside out, bottom up, top down, and all around. A holistic national model of peace. Isn't that great? And so, friends, with this infrastructure in place, and with us now being able to carry on our Be Peace program in a sustainable way, Costa Rica can make the story of Razur real. You see, the teachers in our classrooms in Costa Rica are just like Razur in the mountain. The mountain was his classroom. He called the children into the classroom and he taught them the keys to peace. And the same is going on in the classrooms where we've taught teachers, and we have many more teachers to teach. And so if we can, with the support of the new peace infrastructure and the support of the University for Peace and this beautiful facility and Kizur grounds, if we can use all of these resources now to make the story of Razur real, so that the children learn peace in their classrooms, they go out and they influence their parents, and then the parents influence the community, and it's supported by the peace infrastructure in the government. That's how I believe we'll get to world peace. You know, Gandhi said, if we really are going to have peace, we must begin with the children. And it seems to me that that's so obvious, that we need to face the obvious now. How else is it really going to happen? Because we keep making the same mistakes. If we don't learn as children, it takes so much effort to unlearn, doesn't it? Who's tired of unlearning behaviors? Yeah. So let's get the children before they develop all those patterns and help them understand what goes on inside them so that they can grow up to be peaceful, productive citizens. So by replicating the story of Razur, we're creating a world where every person can practice peace and pass it consciously, pass this gift to the next generation. We know that generational violence will melt away when we consciously establish generational peace. Generational peace. So we must also educate leaders, though, in this process, because we're going to need those leaders to be inspired about peace education in the schools. So we need to bring leaders into the Be Peace Foundation's courses and into other courses on peace, so they begin to really value peace and really understand it, understand what it takes to create a peaceful society. So we need to train the leaders so they have a personal experience of it and then can go back to their countries and say, yeah, let's get this peace education going in our country. Did you know that in a conference on compassion, the Dalai Lama was asked, what do you think is the very best strategy for creating world peace? You know what I heard the Dalai Lama said? He thought about it in his giggly way, you know. The Dalai Lama's always got a smile on his face. He's thinking, what's the very best strategy for world peace? He said, I think it's to bring the presidents and their families to a vacation destination and teach them peace skills. Don't you think we're in the right place to do that? Seems to me we are. Yeah. You know, President Chinchilla told me once, just before she declared her candidacy as president, she told me that she wanted to take the Be Peace course. Actually, what she really said, I said, Laura, don't you think you'd like to run for president? And she said, well, I'm not sure I want to do that. But what I do want to do is take one of your courses. So can you imagine enticing presidents to come to Costa Rica, to take many courses, but to also take the Be Peace course so that they really learn the skills of peace? I can see it happening, can't you? All right, friends. I want to close now and just say how grateful I am that UPeace accepted Kizur, that you saw that it would meet your needs so that we could find our way into an even greater future. And I'm confident that this partnership will continue to bloom and grow. And I'm delighted to be in this partnership with you. And, you know, this partnership is bound for success because this is the right time for peace. Isn't it the right time for peace? It's the time. You know, absolutely, the power and influence of the old ways of repression, attack, aggression, those ways are dying. People all over see that they just cannot work. And I know that it might look like, you know, the darkness before the dawn sometimes, but it's like a dying vibration of a spent force. The dying vibration of a spent force. That's what all that old stuff is. So we don't have to wait 1 minute longer, not 1 minute longer, because humanity is screaming in pain. And they just don't realize what they're screaming for really is peace education. That's what they're really screaming for, because if each individual was educated for peace, from that would ripple out all the changes that are creating pain. I'm not saying that we'll never have pain in our lives. We grow from pain. I'm not saying that. I'm not a utopian. But I do believe that we suffer unnecessarily so much, and that it's needless, that we know how now to educate for peace. We know how, and we're doing it, and we see the impact. So we don't need to wait a minute longer. We have enough knowledge right now to create peace on earth. And you know, there's no better story than the story of Razor to inspire peace education. And there's no better country than Costa Rica to model it and inspire others to replicate it. It's happening right here, right now, tonight, and every day as we teach peace in Costa Rica. Years ago, a friend of mine told me that the angel of Costa Rica goes around whispering in the ears of gringos. And she said, what that angel of Costa Rica says is, just love me. Just love me. Well, I love Costa Rica and all that it stands for. And may our partnership continue to grow and bloom in beautiful Costa Rica, creating a stronger national model of peace and creating a global model of peace that is lasting. Thank you.
I hope all of you can join us for a little reception and some music up in the main terrace of the house. So this is the end of this ceremony, and I invite you all to join us up on the terrace. Thank you very much, Rita Marie.